Thank you all for joining us. January is a month for contemplation, a time to pause, meditate on what was, and imagine what could be. This month's workshops and offerings will center around the theme of reflection. We invite you to contemplate your journey within Ujima's ecosystem throughout 2023 and consider new possibilities we might explore ahead. This workshop, members of the Anchor Institutions team and Coalition's Policies and Grassroots Organizing team will share their reflections on 2023. Anchor team members Siona and Susan will dive into the highs, lows, insights, and opportunities from their experiences with the team. Following the Anchor team, Atul will share his insights from the Coalition's Policy, Grassroots, and Organizing team. If we can please give it up for Siona and Susan, and feel free to share whenever. Yes.
Hello. So I am
Hi.
Siona again.
And I'm Susan. And we are going to give reflections from the members of the Anchor Institution team. So some of the things that we did in 2023, we held a virtual Ujima Faith Network gathering in May. We had 24 participants from about 14 faith groups and other organizations. And one of the new Ujima Business Alliance members, Kadogo Productions, came and talked about their programs and also requested support from the network. Part of what we spent time doing and that May gathering was to reconnect with each other through breakout rooms and to try to continue to build our network. And then we also spent some time helping participants develop strategies to support Ujima's goals and mission. We also participated in advocacy actions for the Fair Share Amendment. And through our member, Karen, we were able to increase coordination with the Ujima Business Alliance members and learn more about them, which allowed us to be able to spread the word about how to support them. Groups such as the Kadogo Media or Productions, Comfort Kitchen, and Black Market. Siona, I'm not sure if she did it with anybody else, presented a Ujima 101, basically introduction to Ujima, to a gathering of the Episcopal City Mission. We have been planning for a team retreat and a reset in 2004. Several members of this team are also part of the pilot action group. And this year, that group was able to get legislation introduced in the state legislature that would give cities the right to make anchor institution contributions mandatory. They also worked with the city council in a working session that was held in the spring and met with university reps and Michelle Wu in the fall. As well as publishing an op-ed in November in Commonwealth Beacon, where they talked about what pilot is, and also the fact that so far it's fallen short of the goal of the payment in lieu of taxes from most of the groups that should be doing that. However, Mayor Wu's office has indicated that she is going to give priority to getting something done on pilot in 2024. Then challenges. Our group has continued, I think we talked about this a little bit last year, but we've continued to have some ambiguity about our goals, and also in part because of the lack of inroads in non-faith institutions, and also having met the initial Ujima goal of fully funding the Ujima Loan Fund, which was sort of the focus of this group for several years. We are also working on reconnecting the existing faith network members to mobilize their organizations. And we've also spent a certain amount of time talking about diversifying the team and centering BIPOC voices. And the ambiguity and the diversifying are probably going to be the focuses of the retreat that we have I believe it's now scheduled for February. And now I'll turn it over to Siona.
Thanks, Susan. This is, oh, sorry. This is a little bit of an older slide, but I think it's helpful to just understand a bit about what having an anchor institution strategy is or may mean for Ujima, for our broader membership. And part of it is to focus on these three areas. And I think in the past, our team has had kind of set these as kind of the North Stars of our organizing efforts and had items that we would try to, goals or objectives that we would try to meet and within each of those. Last year, I think we were still trying to organize ourselves a bit internally. So we don't have any bullets under these, but we certainly wanted to just share what we feel is still helpful as guiding objectives for how we organize. And then, so I think last time we presented, we were offered to, we were asked to bring, invite people in. Oops, apologies. And so we kind of created some asks or things that we think would really help either us or help the Ujima overall. So we welcome and we ask you to join our anchor team that meets monthly, or even I would throw out there another member team and see how see how it lands with you in terms of organizing around that particular strategy. For us, it's organizing around particular big anchors and how we can kind of make some inroads there. Our team meets like tonight after this education or co-direct period, starting from around 7:15 and goes to about 8:30, every third Wednesdays pretty much. And we do email exchanges, and we have a Google group that sends out email summaries to members. Also, you can have someone in your either faith group, if you're part of one, a congregation, if you know people in hospitals in the area, universities, join us as what we consider like a liaison, an anchor liaison, who can help us make introductions or at least identify who those, who maybe some people are within hospitals, universities, or other big institutions in Boston. Or identify allies in your network with influence. So we would love that. Also, maybe let us know what your congregations or ministries have in terms of where those if they have goals or objectives or what they're pursuing for the year or as part of their value programs. We would love to come out to different groups, even to hospitals or organizations, or even like union groups within hospitals or universities to present who Ujima is, what Ujima is about. Help us to build a stronger coalition, basically. And we are having this retreat among our anchor team members. There's probably going to be about 10, maybe 12 of us. And we're really hoping to come out of there with a little more, direction. And so we may have more requests coming from there. And then please ask questions. when I started, I had no clue what this anchor institution strategy meant or even was defined as. So I asked a lot of questions, I listened, but please do ask us anything. And the way you could reach us is not that email address, because that goes to one of the staff, but I'll throw my email, and Susan, if you would like to throw your email in the chat, that's where you can get in contact with us about any of these asks, requests, or anything else you might have. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Siona. We are going to, if y'all have questions, we're gonna leave them at the end to ask both teams. Abdul, are you ready to go? Thank you, Siona and Susan. Okay, bet.
Yeah.
We will transition to coalitions.
Awesome. Hey everyone, thanks for having me, and thanks for making this space and time to talk about this. So I'm part of the Coalition's Policy and Grassroots Initiative organizing member team, and this member team was launched in the early part of last year. The intention behind this team was to be a member-led extension of Ujima that was focused on grassroots policy and coalition building initiatives. So on the policy and grassroots front, this could mean various activities, like it could be signing petitions, voter education, campaigns, policy education. And on the coalition building front, it's about building, uplifting, and joining existing coalitions. And so the first meeting was held in April of last year. And since then, we've held meetings monthly, and we've also held some meetings in between on an ad hoc and need basis, as and when needed. And initially, for the first few meetings, we were focused on communicating, discussing, and aligning on a shared vision and purpose for the member team. And that did take some time. We also did spend some time aligning on a roadmap for the year, although, we weren't able to hit all those milestones as defined, but we did cover some distance, and we did had a few early wins. And with just how the conversation went amongst the team members, we also got around to thinking of what, like, more stuff on more of the administrative side, like, for example, what our onboarding process would look like, and how exactly do we capture, how exactly do we understand the skills, interests, and affiliations of the team members, existing team members, and also new team members, in a way that usefully informs our objectives and our efforts. And so, yeah, that's what we did. We defined our onboarding process, and we also developed a skills, interest, and affiliations matrix using Google Sheets that members can fill for themselves, and also serves as a useful tool to gaining a snapshot of what our members are interested in, what they have experience in, how much they're interested in, and who they're connected with that could help us in this common work that we're in. Some of the other things we deliberated on and decided on was what communication tool that we would use to coordinate in between our meetings. And in our case, we decided we would, coordinate using WhatsApp. We also talked about some guidelines of engagement, uh, communication guidelines. That's something that we are evolving as and when we learn and continue our engagement. I'd like to, yeah, and also a significant highlight of last year is that we had an opportunity to share space with two amazing activists, Rahim and Kristen, who are advocating for state bills that would allow rideshare drivers with companies like Uber and Lyft to unionize and collectively bargain. So we were fortunate enough that they joined us, and they shared a little bit about their mission, their work, and the struggles that they face. They were very inspiring, and we had a lot to learn from them. We also spent quite a bit of time deliberating on what the standards and decision-making process would be like for what pieces of legislation that we prioritize our support on. Like how do we decide which legislative efforts that we put our force behind, and what we can campaign for, and what's most important to us. That's something that we spend time thinking about. We also spend time thinking about our community outreach initiatives. So these two things are still in the works, but for our outreach initiatives, we do intend to roll out a bunch of events this year. We are still figuring out what those events would look like, but so far we are considering something like a salon-style gathering format that centers around political conversation, education, and probably even some fun and games to make sure that it's engaging, and most importantly, we want to make sure that these events are inclusive and welcoming. Yeah, and so with all that being said, we've so far had a few small early wins, and we're fortunate enough to have a core team that consistently shows up to our meetings, which we all are grateful for. However, this team has remained smaller than we probably would have liked, and talking about some of the challenges we're facing, we are indeed constrained by the limited meeting time that we have every month. So far, I think, so we meet just once every month, and we do have some meetings in between. But it's still just like a 1 hour meeting, and that means we do have limited time to talk about what we want to talk about, and we're also limited by the bandwidth of our existing members, who are often pretty occupied with their full-time jobs or educational commitments. And so we hope to meet these challenges through an increase in membership, which I suspect will happen as and when we do more outreach initiatives. And another thing that I also hope we do more of is that we engage in more conversation and engagement in between our meetings. I think that will be helpful as well. And importantly, I would say we are still a young team, and we would welcome anyone who's interested in this work to join us. The leadership that you bring and the ideas that you bring, or just your presence and energy, also would be greatly valued and welcome here. And then just to close out, I just want to give a shout out to Ray, Marie, and Gio for being amazing presence and support throughout this since its inception. And yeah, we wouldn't we wouldn't have this space if it not for them. And also just Ujima in general. Thank you for giving us a space and opportunity. And also shout out to the other team members. Like I've really learned a lot, working with them, and I think they're a bunch of really cool people. So yeah, with that I'll just close out, and probably we can move on to Q&A. I hope I was audible all this time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Atul. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for your presentation and the labor. We are transitioning to Q&A, and so if there are folks who have questions, please, this is your time.
I will say I put in the chat one more request, so feel free to ask questions about that. Susan has.
So I have a question for Atul. So you talked about an assessment tool. Have you used it, or are you just getting ready to use it? Did you hear that?
Yeah, we did. We have it built out, and yeah, we filled it out with all the members that we currently have, and it's basically part of the onboarding process. And so, as and when we get new members, we would, they would fill it out, and that would give us a good snapshot of who's interested in what and what they're willing to contribute.
What?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Atul, how can we get in touch with you? Can you put your email?
Yeah, sure. I'll just drop it in, but you could also reach out to Ray or Gio, but I'll drop in my email address also. Thanks.
Becky.
So did you call me? Yes. So I had a question for the Anchor Institutions Committee. I know you're trying to build connections with anchor institutions, but I was wondering what kind of support you're trying to get from them or from those connections. Is it to get them to give money, or is it something else?
I can maybe jump on that. So we currently are trying to align as much as possible with other initiatives happening. And so there's not one thing right at the moment that we're trying to, I don't know if promote's the right word, but ask networks to push. But earlier, I think, or toward the end of last year, we had the pilot initiative and legislation. I'm sorry, not legislation, but some of that campaign with City Hall. And then Susan, there was actually anyone can answer. There was a grassroots movement with some legislation related to banking. I think we missed putting that on the slide, but promoting or at least forwarding and sharing the information. So it's not just all about money, but when that does happen, then we will share that among the faith network and the liaison groups, whoever we're connected with. And so, does that help?
I guess so, but I mean, if it's about anchor institutions, that's, you're talking about hospitals and other groups as well as churches, faith-based. So I was
Yeah,
just
but that-
wondering if there are other kinds of support. I mean, the pilot gets more money into the city coffers, so that helps all communities, including communities of color, because there's more money in the city budget to fund them. So I
And what's
understand
your
that piece
question?
of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I think also, I don't know if Fiona said this, but yes, I think we would be asking in some cases for them to support the Ujima financially, and in other cases and or maybe to support the business alliance members in ways that might connect with that, with whatever organization it is that or institution we're talking to.
So maybe getting them to do business with and hire contractors who are in the business alliance or are Ujima loan recipients.
Right.
Great, sounds good. Thanks.
Mhm.
There's a question from Ray. I can just quickly answer that. So I did forget to mention, but we do meet as a member team every second Wednesday of the month. And yeah, you should be able to get the link on the Ujima weekly, updates.
So Atul, I didn't get the full name of your committee at the beginning. I'm sorry. Could you state what that is again?
Oh yeah, let me just type it in, but it's the Coalition's Policy and Grassroots Organizing member team.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
If I could ask a clarifying question of the anchor team, even though I'm on it. When it comes to Ujima 101, is that similar to the workshop that I attended like 2 years ago in February? It was a two-day or a two-part workshop. Is that the same thing, or is it shorter?
I'm not sure which workshop you attended. But we, as part of the anchor strategy, we help people, we accept invitations to kind of introduce their organization to Ujima. And I think typically because, we started our work under where we kind of had more connections, which would be our individual faith groups. That's kind of where we kind of were sent out the most or requested the most. But if any hospital wants to come meet with us, and last year we did actually with NIA's support, or with NIA, we supported NIA with an intro call back at Children's Hospital. It turned out not to be what we thought, but so we'll do, kind of an agenda or an education around where we think they are asking. So just
Can we
generically call it 101.
can we do that in like an hour and a half
Right. I think so.
or an hour? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll bring that up at our meeting later on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question. So one of the things that we want to do with the member teams, so the member teams are also practice for self-organizing. And so I also think it's interesting to see what the member teams can learn from each other in terms of trying out different processes, trying out different routines, trying out different systems, trying out different structures. So I know that the Coalition's Policy and Grassroots Organizing team has created an accountability committee. And so I'm wondering if Atul or someone else from the team can talk about the creation of that committee, some background, what was the idea behind it? How do you think it's working? Is it something that you would recommend that other member teams try?
Thanks, Nia. I can try to answer that. So the accountability committee meetings are very helpful to the extent that they allow us to meet more than just once a month. For that, I think, so the committee is open to whoever is interested in joining, and we just try to take on some extra legwork in the month that we can manage to, and try to get more conversations going. But I don't know, Ray, do you want to add something to that, or?
Yeah, sure. I will say, yeah, it definitely was inspired by Anchor Institution and like the way that you all like self-organize. But I think partially is because it is a very new member team. Mary and Gio and I, we developed this proposal that we shared with all of the membership, but it was just a rough draft. It was a sketch, and we knew we wanted this member team to be member led and member focused. And what we found at the very beginning is that we were always creating the agenda. And we like, okay, wait, how do we check that? How do we continue to make this a member-led space? And so we kind of created the accountability committee to, number one, make sure that Ujima staff wasn't taking up too much space in these meetings that are supposed to be member-led, and like member driven. And so it started with kind of just like an agenda creation meeting. But then, from there, it kind of evolved to like, well, what are our standards for this meeting, for this member team? And we began to set those. And so though a lot of the container building was happening in the member team meeting, once the accountability committee was established, which anybody that's a part of the member team can be on the accountability committee. Once it was established, it made space for some of that container building to take place in the accountability committee meeting, by the members who were regularly showing up to the member team meeting. And so that in the member team meeting, we could focus a little bit more wholly on the work. Not saying that the container building is separate from the work, because we're still container building, but I think that it helped kind of balance the amount of power that like Ujima staff had in that space, especially with it being three staff observer.
I have a question. What is, when you talk about accountability, what does that mean to you as far as this team?
Well, for us, it was initially called the accountability committee because it was to keep the Ujima staff accountable to not taking up too much space and making sure that the space remained a member-led space. So that is what it was. But then it was like, I think it transformed to be a space where the member team was able to, because they set standards, were able to hold each other accountable to showing up for one another, showing up for the work. Yeah. So I think that's where the accountability piece comes from.
It never occurred to me that that was for the staff. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And so I think you saw in the chat, Mary said that the accountability committee was kind of inspired by Anchor. So I'm curious because I also know, we also know that the Anchor team has created some processes, some systems, if you will, that actually still endure, even given the challenges that the Anchor team is creating. or not creating, sorry, experiencing. So I'm curious from the anchor team, are there any kind of systems or routines or processes you've created that you think are working that you might recommend to another member team to try out?
So I can start. So one of the things that I think has been helpful is that we sign up on a 3-month time frame, one person to be the to take notes, and one person to be the sort of the lead. So that person is going to set up the agenda and also just keep the meeting moving on the agenda, and try not to get us off topic. And then we have a outreach person and an inreach person, and that hasn't. So I'm now going into my 3rd year, and I'm not as clear about what those folks do. I think the outreach person, if we had a new member, that person would work with the new member to try to sort of bring them on board with bring them up to speed on sort of what's going on the in the team. Somebody else can maybe jump in and add to this, but I do think that helps, because it's like a shared responsibility for the things that need to happen. Somebody needs to take notes. Somebody needs to make the agenda and lead the meeting.
Yeah. And I think this came out of part of this, I think this concept of container building. We're just trying to build some structure by which we can kind of help keep our organizing work, you know, working. And so, yeah, Nadav, one of our longstanding members, came up with this kind of, or somebody did, I'm sorry, it wasn't me, but somebody else came up with this rotation, and we agreed that it would be a good thing to assign roles. We only do meet once a month, and I think Athul's kind of mention of their team meeting, lack of meeting more than once a month was kind of not helpful. But we also are very recognizing that all of our member teams on the anchor institution team, we do have capacity issues. We've run across limits and walls in the past years. And so we do kind of bring that up on occasion. And we don't have any structure around that, but the roles themselves have been helpful, the rotating roles.
The other thing, one other thing I would add about the person who's doing the agenda, anybody can ask to have something put on the agenda. That person would go out and ask for input from other people. So that person doesn't really control the agenda. It means somebody is actually setting up an agenda that we think we can cover in the hour and 15 minutes that we have.
I've been with the anchor team. This is Karen. I've been with the anchor team about 1.5 years, almost, well, yeah, about 1.5 years, a little more. And one of the things that we're not shy about doing is when we've got a large project to do, like putting together the agenda and the PowerPoint slides we use to guide our Faith Network meeting. There were 3 of us that got together 4 Fridays for an hour apiece to make sure that there was more than one set of eyes looking at it, and also that we were each contributing and we knew who was going to be addressing what. And somebody, even like Siona, was outside of this smaller group, but she agreed to approach one of our Business Alliance founders to come and talk to us. So we pitch in, and we're not shy about meeting at different times, but it's not all of us doing those extra meetings. but those 4 Fridays made the world a difference, and it didn't feel as painful as if one person had to do it all.
Thank you, Karen. I saw
Yeah.
Simona.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when I first heard about the idea of the accountability committee, I was thinking about some of the structures that our team has been discussing and has not yet implemented, but is hoping, at least I've been very much pushing towards the implementation of more structures that can help our team be more accountable to Ujima's vision as a whole. And I think that's sort of like the opposite of what your accountability committee started as, which was the staff being more accountable to member teams. But I think our team also is in a place of needing more accountability to staff and to the goals and the members at large of the Ujima network. And I think one of the structures that would probably be helpful is in what Susan described as one of the roles we had originally proposed was this in-reach role that someone could hold on a quarterly basis to be a connector. And we haven't actually, I think, implemented that fully successfully. But the idea that like someone is tasked with the holding the relationship between our team and the rest of Ujima, and I think some learning around that is we need to actually set up what that structure looks like and when those meetings might happen, when that communication might happen, and maybe it needs to be more than. I think it does need to be more than one person holding that. So that's a piece of learning that I think other teams might benefit from. And then also thinking through what is we are member organized teams, but what does that organizing actually look like? What is the actual implementation of that, sort of organizing strategy? That piece also we are working on thinking through how do we do more one-to-ones, how do we do more engagement with members to build capacity of the team, or at least build that accountability towards what we're all working towards.
Yeah, we're a little
I came in
past
late, but I'll just, I'm on the anchor team too, Steve, so I just will second some of those things. I do think like having, as Simona was saying, an in-reach outreach, we do have an in-reach outreach person, but having it have an active role where it meets with somebody on Ujima staff on a quarterly basis would be great.
I'm going to be handling the closing. Thank you all for coming and talking and thinking and feeling. We have to open it up to the next section of this. We have a secondary workshop after this one. If you'd like to stay, feel free to stay on. But otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording here.